As we go through life, we're going to meet and develop all different types of relationships with many different types of people. In my experience, students that are neurodiverse, they can have a bit of a blur sometimes between certain categories of people that they meet or with boundaries. In order to be successful in creating these relationships, we need to teach them certain social skills. Only about 7% of our communication is done with words. The rest is done with facial expressions, with subtle nuances, with our eyes, body language. A lot is done based on what is not said. There will be white lies thrown in there too to make things even more confusing. So this is confusing enough for a neurotypical person, let alone a person who has a neurodiversity, because they might even have a deficiency in being able to recognize certain facial expressions. So there's lots of different challenges. On top of that, we have been taught to not hurt people's feelings in social situations, which is why we tell white lies. We want to be kind. We don't want to hurt somebody. So when somebody says, messages or calls, and you say, oh, I'm sorry, I really don't have time to talk right now because I'm busy. Or, oh, those purple striped jumpsuit on you looks really good. We're telling little white lies, and it's not always going to be picked up by somebody who might be neurodiverse, because they're not picking up the body language. They're taking us quite literally. Well, they told me that it was just because they're busy, they can't talk right now. Or they told me that they really liked the purple jumpsuit, so why would they lie about something like that? They take things very literally. So normally we would calibrate on these things, these facial expressions, the things that people are not saying. That's why we use the 3 strikes you're out rule that I spoke about in another video. If we've sent somebody 3 messages, or we've called them 3 times now and we've still gone unanswered, we know to back down a bit and wait for that person to respond. If we've asked somebody out for dinner 3 times and 3 times they've said, no, I'm sorry, I'm busy, we know that it's time to move on. These have been taught to us, along with certain social behaviors and boundaries with certain categories. So we need to teach these things to our students. They need to understand the categories of social situations, that an acquaintance is an acquaintance. They are not our best friend. That a professional like a social worker or your doctor or a police officer, you wouldn't go and ask them how their mother's doing. It works the other way too, that we need to understand that, hey, that person's just an acquaintance to me. They shouldn't be asking me to come for a ride in their van. We need to understand these things for safety reasons also. Because that we consider somebody also our best friend, doesn't mean that that person considers us their best friend. And that can be hurtful. That can be a hard thing to accept. But we have to understand that the category that we put people in, they don't necessarily put us in that same category, and vice versa too. Maybe the mailman is just your mailman. You don't want to go out for dinner with the mailman. So social boundaries should be taught. We need to remind them that people may tell them white lies, to be polite, and to teach them what signs to look for, how to calibrate on what is being told, on the actions, not maybe what's being told, but what the actions are of the person. If they haven't called you back, if they haven't messaged you back, there could be a reason why they've done that. They'll call you back when they're ready. So teach them these things, because we want them to be able to learn to create and have and form successful relationships.